There's this button. Thank you very much indeed, Chairperson. In the first instance, I'd like to give the committee 4 copies of court cases that we have fought over this issue for the information of members, because I think they demonstrate a sorry history of ducking and diving and of obfuscation and of avoidance. Starting off with the avoidance of the very pertinent remedial action that was ordered by the Public Protector, and then avoiding the consequential actions or judgments of not only the Cape High Court on 2 occasions, but also the Supreme Court of Appeal. And I find that it is almost surreal that in the face of a Chapter 9 institution finding and judgments by 3 different courts, that we can find ourselves in this meeting still discussing whether or not Mr. Motsoeneng should or shouldn't be a member of the staff of the SABC. Now, this has gone a long way, and I'd hope that this is the beginning of the end of it, because the presentation that we saw here is at best disingenuous, because it doesn't address the real problems. It's sort of technical response which has characterized everything that the SABC has given in its court defense. But let's just start with the argument that that Mr. Motsoeneng was cleared by a disciplinary hearing. That disciplinary hearing took place in mid-December last year. It was a complete farce. Critical people were not called as witnesses. No evidence was led at all in respect of one of the charges. It's wrongly sought to second-guess the findings and remedial action of the Public Protector, and for that reason, the Democratic Alliance has taken that disciplinary proceedings on review in the courts, and we are now awaiting a judgment on that matter. But it goes beyond that, in my view, because the Cape High Court and the SCA found that it was irrational and unlawful to appoint Mr. Motsoeneng as the COO, not only because of the Public Protector's remedial action, but also because of the cumulative damning findings they made about Mr. Motsoeneng in the course of that report. And those findings and remedial action are binding unless they are set aside on review. Now, my understanding is the SABC has, in fact, launched a review application, or seeks or purports to want to do so, which brings me to the point that was already being raised here around the legal fees. I mean, we are now litigating in millions of rands. According to the latest SABC annual report, the legal fees went up from 171 million to 257 million rands. And I would argue that if people want to litigate to look after their positions, they must litigate in their personal capacities and pay for the court cases themselves. They cannot make the corporation pay for it. So that's the one aspect. Then let's come on to the appointment of the Chief Executive Corporate Affairs. And it is true on one narrow definition that the appointment was lawful because it was made by the right people or the right person. But there are 2 other aspects that I think are relevant in this respect. And Mr. Justice Davis found that Mr. Motsoeneng could not be precluded from consideration in the staff position because it was possible that the Public Protector's findings would be proved false. Now, there's only one way in which the Public Protector's findings can be found to be false, and that is if you take the matter on review. That action has not yet happened, and it can only happen if her findings are reviewed and set aside by a court. It is plainly contrary, in our view, to the findings of 3 courts to appoint Mr. Motsoeneng as the Chief Executive of Corporate Affairs, while the Public Protector's findings still stand. And I think we need some very honest answers out of the board, because it is true, as I said, that people can make that decision and it's not a board decision. But the board has a fiduciary duty to oversee the activities of the chief executives. And if it fails to exercise that power, then it becomes complicit in unlawful and bad decisions that are taken by the management of the SABC. Quite apart from the fact that it was against the law in our view. Thank you, Chair.